Okay. Climbing Magazine, an article I also wrote, number 52, January, February 1979. The Emperor Face by Jim Logan. The real key to climbing the Emperor Face was making a firm decision to try, regardless of the obstacles that nature and our imagination might place in our path. Once we were on the top, and especially when high on the face, the climbing is in one sense easy, because it was within the realm of our capabilities and the level of determination. And in another sense, as difficult as any climbing we had ever done. The clouds drifted in and out of the valley, and we moved up the moraine to our gear, and at long last put on our crampons. Muggs said, "Now we are climbers, somehow a qualitative difference from hikers and backpackers." It is amazing how a simple change of costume can make such a difference. When I started transition, I lost my main climbing partner. Partly that he was sort of done with the really difficult climbing we were doing, but partly I think he was uncomfortable with me. And I didn't feel comfortable to ask people to go climbing with me, and I didn't really know what to do. So I found this climb that was hard, which is my current project. It's 513 rating, which is a hard rating. Okay, that's the first hard part. We call it projecting, where you go into the same climb over and over and over and learn how to do the moves. When I started it, there were whole sections I couldn't do any moves on at all. Climbing has been a constant in my life. I think climbing is free of the need to present as one gender or another, which I quite like about it, actually. When I started climbing, which was 60 years ago, there were really no magazines, no internet, there were no sponsors. We were kind of inventing the sport. And we were actually making a lot of our own equipment. As it went along, we would make the equipment better and we got better. We were just a bunch of kids who had a really strong desire to climb up stuff.
I mean, the things she was doing up on the Emperor Face, by contemporary standards, remain significant. Jamie was up there climbing M8 in very run-out terrain. Run-out meaning like a fall would be catastrophic. And she was doing so on this really rudimentary, old, to be frank, like quite shitty equipment. It's really actually quite hard for me to imagine. It's certainly not something I would have done.
And these are all mixed up, but there's, I think, this like wedding pictures from Jamie and my wedding, which we got married on the farm. This was Jamie's 60th birthday, which we did a big surprise thing for her. She was still a him then. And you can see Jamie in these pictures. She just looks kind of uncomfortable, I think.
What about your new sparkly dress? I love that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So what are you going to wear?
I like this dress. It's inside out.
It's inside out. No.
I like this one, actually, with not jeans.
Isn't that the librarian dress?
How about that dress?
Yeah, I like that one. Okay. That's good. Okay. I help her buy stuff.
Yeah, she goes to the store with me.
Well, no, like...
But like this is one of my favorite dresses that she bought for herself, and she didn't like it. And then I just tried it on. I thought, oh, I really like it. And now this 2 years later, whatever, 3 years later.
Maybe. In the way beginning of Jamie's transition, Jamie was, it was like she was kind of a teenager. She was a teen trans at 60, whatever. Yeah. And so she would get these, like she had this mini skirt that was just horrible, and she just didn't know how to put
Well, they were all the clothes I'd always dreamed of, which were singularly inappropriate for a 65-year-old person. It took a while to work all that out.
She was pretty macho in the day. The ego and what it takes to do those big climbs 40 years ago, it was a pretty male world. 20 years into our marriage, she told me that she liked wearing women's clothes. And I was like, okay. But that was all she told me. I mean, it was really more than 10 years after that that she came out to me. And for a while, I was the only person that knew. And that was really hard for me. And then there were the relationships with the kids, with family and friends. And that was complicated too, really complicated. I wasn't sure that I was in for it. She was trying to figure out who she was. And I actually asked her to leave the house for a while because I just needed space to kind of figure it out. And we decided we really wanted to try to make it work. We both went into therapy. She moved back in the house, and I did end up supporting her.
For me, while climbing on a hard climb like the Emperor or the first free ascent of the Diamond, my mind moves into a very special niche that is normally most difficult for me to reach. Instead of feeling that I am pursuing a craft or exercising a particular technique, it becomes possible for me, sometimes in some very special places, to transcend my ego, my learned skills, my hopes, fears, and expectations, and simply climb. It is nothing more than sleeping while tired, eating when hungry. For me, the Emperor Face of Mount Robson was such a place. When I started transitioning in my mid-60s, it was really, really terrifying because I didn't know if I was going to wreck my kids. I didn't want to wreck my kids. I didn't want to blow up my marriage. I loved Sherry deeply. I love architecture. I didn't know if anybody would hire me. I didn't know if anybody would climb with me ever again. It was always just there, kind of eating away at me, and it didn't feel like a choice. It felt like by the time I finally started really dealing with it, going to therapy, it felt like it was something I had to deal with to survive. Once I sort of started dealing with it, it was just became a series of decisions. Am I going to get rid of my beard? Am I going to get hair transplants? Am I going to tell everybody what I'm doing? It was really unknown territory because I didn't know anybody who was trans, actually. Every time I got outed more and bigger, my life got better. There was less fear, less worrying about what I could or couldn't wear, less anxiety. It was better that everybody knew.
I have all these prints, which are beautiful prints.
They look pretty great.
I know. So this is the Salome series. It's called Salome at Sunset, these 3 images. Salome was the biblical princess who danced before King Herod. This is from the Eve and the Forbidden Fruit series. Eve is both the tempted and the temptress. But in this one, you know, I bare my breasts, and everybody says, you're so brave. And really, I think it's just a matter of, it's just women, we need to be seen for who we are.
She really feels empowered by my transition, actually. She went from not knowing if she could do it or not. I think she'd always felt that there was some reason that she couldn't do what she wanted to do. because of the marriage. And then all of a sudden she was sort of free of it in a really wonderful way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm queer now too, which, you know, and I think we had a pretty conventional marriage.
Yeah.
I'm still pretty much a straight femme, but I live in this world now that's much more fluid.
This idea of there's men and there's women is just factually not true. It's historically for millions of years never been true. There's a lot of people who live their life in the middle. And where do they go and what do they do? When I grew up in West Texas, being trans was not even known as a thing. It was always only talked about in this very derisive, making fun of, can you believe it? This is so horrible kind of a way. And so I think you sort of carry that with you through your life, that this is a really bad thing. And if you tell anybody, who knows what's going to happen? I felt really bad about myself all the time about that, because it's like, what's wrong with me? Why can't you stop doing this? If you get caught, your life is going to be ruined. Which I think that might be what contributes an awful lot to the really high suicide rate of trans people. This feeling of hopelessness, of how can I be myself, and this indescribable need to change who you are. There's a very clear and present danger to all trans people. This is just a map of the red states, are all ones that have passed laws banning gender-affirming care for youth up to age 18. These guys, I see them as almost all guys, just have no respect for or information about all the people that live in the middle culturally, on a gender point of view, from who they want to love, who they want to have sex with. All those things are complicated and confusing, and there's no clear this way or that way. It just doesn't exist. And then there's no legislation they can make that will make it exist. I think we need more people in the country to know somebody who's trans, and to know people who are gay, and to live with people and engage with them. We're all just trying to go down the road and raise our kids, and it's nice to have a place to live. It's nice to have enough food. We all pretty much want the same stuff, I think. The first avalanche hit me while I was dozing. As the snow poured over me, I was terrified of being pushed off my seat and dangling on a 70-degree ice sleep in my sleeping bag with my boots off. At the top of the pitch, I ran out of piton placements and ice and set off for 30 feet of rock climbing on overhanging loose snow-covered rock with no protection. As I was stemming out at the top, frantically cleaning off snow looking for a placement, one foot slipped and I quickly mantled onto an ice axe that was drifting through the snow, and it decided to stay in. Our irritation changed to a sort of dumb relief that it was over, 28 pitches. We knew we had done something that we couldn't understand just then, and it would take some time to put it all in perspective. I have always wanted to push my limits, and I think part of it is just a desire to see how far I can go and how far as a culture we can go. Feel good?
It does look good.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first part has 3 sequential difficult parts. And then at the top of that, there's a scoop that I can get into and I can rest. So, and then from there, the climbing isn't as hard, but it's still pretty hard. And a lot of people climb up to the very top and fall off. There's a hard part at the top that people fall off over and over and over. But, so anyway, here we go.
Okay, have fun.
One of the things I love about climbing with Jamie is she is not oriented towards achievements. It's more about the process of engaging in the sport and learning how to build on your experience. She really introduced me and taught me the whole discipline and made it accessible to me in a way that other people really didn't. You know, she made it seem possible. She's definitely the only person I know that is able to still climb at such an intense level for somebody who's in their 70s. It's just really remarkable how bold she is.
When you see her climbing, you see that it's just integral to her psychic, physical being. Climbing for Jamie through her transition was definitely a touchstone. And she really built a new community for herself.
Oh, there we go. Always training. We're always training.
Always training.
Always training.
Being able to present how she wants to present and be who she wants to be just makes her a happy person. 76. Happy. I think everybody sees that I'm behind her.
Hooray!
Okay, let's have a glass of wine.
When I was a kid, I had a dream of climbing all the mountains I could see. I always wanted to go to the top and see what was on the other side. It just was innate in me. And I set off to do it. My transformation made me feel more honest and more connected. I've had a really great life. I think it's important to say that you can be trans and that it's okay.
I've been trying to figure out just what the world needs and what it might mean. To see the world through someone else's eyes, the very same scene. In time, we'll find that love is the greatest thing. That love is the greatest thing. And love is the greatest thing. That love is the greatest thing. And love